Okay, recording working?
It is.
We're live. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a meeting, the planning and zoning meeting of March 16th, 2026, and we'll now call the meeting to order as it is 30. First item on the agenda is the pledge of allegiance. Welcome to stand at the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Audience comments. We have some audience this evening.
One,
Sure.
okay. Would this committee, and I'm not even sure, because you know, I'm new, but would this committee have anything to advise the Board of Selectmen regarding the old town hall? Because I know it's coming to us, you know, in a letter to take care of that, which my sister Judy Lincoln said, good luck, because it's been trying to be taken care of for a long, long time. And then the other thing is, does this committee have anything to do with the proposed solar farm plan for Mr. Corson and Mr. Bellavance's land?
Okay, so to start with the town hall question. I personally, I don't know, anybody else speak up, I don't really know anything about the town hall, the old town hall building situation. If there was a discussion, or if there would like to be a collaborative discussion with this board and the Board of Selectmen, yeah, I would be happy to,
Okay,
you know, do something there and see.
We haven't received anything official. So
Yeah.
we Can't comment on anything we haven't heard about.
Right, I mean, so if there was like a preliminary, if you want to arrange a preliminary meeting or something to discuss it, yeah, or attend, you know, we could attend.
Board of
The
Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen meeting and we could enter into a discussion of the road.
Which is tomorrow night. No, I'm sorry, Wednesday night.
Morning.
Oh, Wednesday morning.
What's the, what's the issue?
With the old town hall? It's been destroyed on the inside. People have taken out all the,
Oh, like, you mean like vandalized?
yes, and
Oh,
all
I
the
didn't know
copper
that.
is gone. Yeah, it's a mess in there. And it would take a lot of money to refurbish it and be able to use it. So they're talking about other options, just having a shell of a building and putting up like booths and things for people to have like a tag sale in there on Saturdays or something. But we're supposed to be using it as a town, according to the former owners. Anybody remember about that? We're supposed.
Are you familiar with this?
Didn't they donate the land or something?
My understanding, and I haven't read the deeds, is that the land, it was deeded to us. However, if the town didn't use it
Yeah.
for town purposes, then it would revert back to the original owners.
Mhm.
So I thought there had been already work done on this before I started here, but we're trying to go through that information, which would be including the other owners.
Has there been
I think
any,
the deed still says the town,
Mhm.
online it does.
Yes, but if we're not, if the town, my understanding with the deed restriction is if the town is not using it for acceptable town purposes, then the deed reverts back to the prior owners.
has there been any communication with this?
I don't know where this is coming up from again, other than Economic Development Commission was trying to figure out what to do
Right.
with
Yeah.
the building.
Yeah.
But we're limited on what we can do with it. We can't sell it because we own it, but there's.
Right, and then it's a financial concern, how much money do you put into it versus what is that return back to the
And the
town?
Economic Development Committee meeting, they said they had no suggestions for us. And so they were sending it back in a formal letter to the Board of Selectmen. And I'll see that tomorrow.
Who was sending that? I'm sorry.
Economic Development. I believe one of the meetings I've been to in the past couple of weeks, I think it was Economic Development. Maybe it was another one. Who else would?
You want to think this is it?
Who?
I think I see that.
Yeah, I think so too.
But we're doing a lot of guessing. without having the minutes from any of those meetings.
Yeah, I don't
So
have the letter yet
the letter from
this committee, because they didn't want to deal, they don't,
which committee? Planning and zoning?
no,
Or
I think it's
PDC.
economic, it was economic development, I really believe. And they were formulating a letter to send to the Board of Selectmen saying, we don't have any suggestions, it's back on your table. And so there is 7.5 acres of land in the back.
But that's gonna be a board of selectmen decision to make.
Right.
Not this commission.
Right, not this committee.
Yeah,
right.
But I was wondering if you guys had anything that you wanted to see that building do, since you're planning zoning.
That really wouldn't.
Yeah, that doesn't really fall under our purview, as we don't really have a choice or any. Yeah, we don't, typically this board wouldn't have a comment on the interest of the town, it would only be strictly regarding
Zoning.
regulatory planning and zoning, yeah, and actually, that's a good point, and there could be something in the P O C D which we could get. And see what
Mhm.
portion of the, what that area falls under and what its, beneficial use would be.
Sometimes towns may put into their, if they know they have a building that doesn't have a use or a they may put in their plan of conservation and development potential future uses for property
Either land
or
or obstruction.
buildings or things like that. So you may want to check your plan of conservation and development and see if there are any suggested uses within the document for that
Patty, do you know
property.
the board of selectmen has looked at the P O C D? For that, in that regard, that's Jim's suggestion, because it really does go back to the board of selectmen.
Okay, I'll know tomorrow when I see Jack.
Yeah, that would probably be the extent of our input, would be going back to the P O C D.
So if they would put a business in there, it wouldn't affect zoning or anything?
Patty, if you really need to work first with the board of selectmen for them to determine what we can and cannot do with the property, and then come up with the plan of what you're gonna do, then, well, but that's where the ownership of that property falls to the board of selectmen in the town.
Okay.
So then after that, if the board of selectmen have a plan for something to do there, maybe it does need to come to planning and zoning, depending on what it is, but first you have to determine whether or not we can do anything with that property outside of what the deed restrictions already say.
Okay. And the fire company was using that building for a while, right?
I don't know.
And Jim Sweet had a,
I know it had been used for storage, but I'm without having the facts. All the facts, that's what we really should be discussing
I
here.
understand that the folder is about this thick.
Right, but I don't wanna guess on it. I'm not familiar with it, and you're learning about it, and I don't think.
Yeah, we don't really deal with hypothetical unless it's been, a plan is being actually proposed and applied for,
Okay,
we don't actually get into it. Other than the P O C D, which is an overall, town vision, overall vision, for,
okay,
yeah, that would be as far as.
okay. And the solar question?
So, yeah, for the solar question, so the only information we have regarding that, I'll call it an idea for now, is just this one document which we received last month. This is all that we know about it. We don't know anything further than that.
And that one letter is full of errors. As far as what it's going to do and what it can do for the town of Sterling.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't necessarily evaluate this letter because this is, from our perspective, just a heads up, this is coming your way. I mean, this
That was
is,
just a notification that they were
Yeah.
going to apply for it. That's the strictest sense of the letter. They have an application, a whole package, but the letter's just notifying the town. That's what their intention is.
Okay,
we do have an item on the agenda for later, later this evening regarding a discussion of some legislation regarding solar farms.
okay.
So, we'll be discussing that tonight just a little bit.
She probably knows more than us.
Yeah, you probably know more than us regarding the solar farm. Like I said, this is all that we know.
Okay,
This is all that we've received, but we haven't seen any other information. Um, People may have heard things around town, maybe, but we don't deal with that here on this committee. We only deal with what we have received
okay,
and deal with it as such. So we have nothing official other than just this letter, which is in our, concerning us, this is not an official. This is nothing for us to make, have a movement on or to have a decision on.
thanks.
But please, any concerns that you have, you know, if you, like you're doing now, you're asking questions, like voice those concerns because that helps prod us into a direction of should we do something or should we not, in terms of adding a regulation or amending a regulation to address it. So
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
having people show up with questions, that can help guide the board on what we do, so.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other comments? We'll have another section at the end for audience comments, so. We'll have another opportunity for them. All right, then moving on, meeting, approval of meeting minutes. First, we have February 9th, public hearing meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read those? This is the one pager. Usually order a book on the next one, but.
I think I got that. It's Jim's fault. It's your fault.
It's my fault, actually, it's not even James' fault. Thank you, it's my. Down, you guys good? And have you ready? So, because Ed is a full member, he's not an alternate, right? So that's why we didn't see him. Okay, so what I would suggest, and because you're new, when we vote to approve these meeting minutes, just abstain because we want to. And that's, perfectly acceptable. John did that last time. He missed the meeting. Just abstain, because of absence. Okay, do we have a motion?
It is, though, I just, you don't know.
Public hearing.
Oh, yeah, you
Okay.
did. Yep, you just missed the public hearing, that's all.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the public hearing minutes for Monday, February 9th, 2026.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor? Three ayes, I abstain. And two abstains. Thank you. Okay, moving on, February 9th, 2026, regular meeting minutes. This was a long one. However, most of it is simply the conditions of approval for each of the two applications, which are just copy, hopefully it was copy and paste for you. You had to take it all, sorry.
I didn't check your spelling.
Yeah, I didn't either. I started reading it and I said, no, these are just all the conditions of approval, and hopefully this was a copy and paste, so, there shouldn't be any errors.
A lot of work on
Yeah.
it. No, it's pretty good.
Well, that was months of work for all of us, so, get through stuff. You want a motion?
Make a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes for Monday, February 9th, 2026.
I second the motion.
All those in favor? Okay. Correspondence, do you have any correspondence?
Yeah.
Does this count as correspondence? It was a notice for training session.
I guess it could. Was, okay, we can put it
It
in.
was really in the packet, but I guess we should just include it. So the only correspondence we had was HB 8002 zoning, planning and zoning commissioner and staff workshop training session. I attended, anybody else attend? No. We have an agenda item later to talk about this, so we'll save that discussion for that point.
Ashley said it's an agenda item.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll talk about that, okay. Moving on, unfinished business. We don't have any, I don't believe. No unfinished business, moving on, new business. No new business. That's the first one in a while. Okay, we'll take it, moving on, BEO report. Couple of items, looks like North Sterling Road are gathering information from their town attorneys, that's unfortunate, but. Sounds like, VEO's doing their job. Free splits / lot line adjustments, responded to inquiries. Doesn't say how many, and I didn't talk to John about this,
What's a free split?
that is you are allowed one free split, which is not considered a subdivision. You can take your property and you can subdivide one lot, you're right, without it being considered a subdivision.
That would mean that at no point in time is there ever something right before. Like, why couldn't people that were here in the last month do that?
Because their property had been recently subdivided prior to that, yeah.
Okay. So it's a big farm or something. Do that.
Right, you could, yes. I'm not sure what that's a good question, actually, is.
I think she said somebody had already done it once on the property.
Oh, on that property, yes, that was, yeah, that was, we had seen it here,
Oh,
that was in my time, so, yeah, that was very recent, but. What if the subdivision was 50 years old with that, I'm not sure what that number is, so.
I don't imagine going on this right.
Yeah, we did change with the owner.
Yeah. Unless you have something to add, Jim.
What free split?
Yeah.
The free split is basically just one, it's any parcel that existed prior to, the initiation of zoning regulations, you get one free split of the property. And then once,
Oh, so if it was subdivided after our current regulations took effect originally, that point is subject to.
right, if it's a re-subdivision, if it has already gotten its free split. It's already taken its free split. So basically, because the definition of subdivision is the division of any parcel into 3 pieces or more. So that includes you have the original, you have the free split, and then once it's divided one more time, that's 3. So a subdivision is the 3 parcels or more is what triggers a subdivision application. And then a re-subdivision would be the division of any one of those parcels. Would be
That wouldn't
considered.
matter who the new owners are.
Nope, doesn't matter ownership.
How far back does that go, Jim?
When they-
To the date
Just
of the
the
original regulation.
For 20,
It's the initiation of subdivision, not zoning. So your subdivision regulations started in 1988.
88.
so if it was done in like 1960, we could do another free split.
Do I have a free split? If you, well, it wouldn't be, prior to, it was split. So it would be a lot of record prior to subdivision.
So it would be. Yeah, it would be open to a free split, yeah. Free isn't free though, so.
Right.
Okay, next item on the DEO report is legal off the record, just they just responded to inquiries. And ADU is responding to one inquiry regarding existing accessory dwelling unit. I'm sure about that, but they're just letting us know what they were doing. Questions on it? Not that I have anything, but. Okay.
And the only thing I would add to, and it's not really part of the CEO report, is I did also get an inquiry that's somewhat related to an action previously from the enforcement officer, I believe. And that had to do with a cease and desist, I think that was issued for the gravel operation. Because I was contacted by a surveyor engineering company, asking whether the earth excavation regulations had anything within them that, had any accommodations for, agricultural or farming uses.
Yeah,
So that was just one inquiry that I did receive from a surveyor. I don't believe there is any particular stipulation in there. I think the only thing you have is the one quantity.
yeah, that's all I saw as well. I
Yeah.
didn't see any allowance for farm or agricultural.
Excavation process or,
Yeah, I mean, when you think of farm, you think of like farm license plate, you know, any other farm, it's usually like within the farm. If this is just being exported off site,
What would the difference be? How would you even determine, you know, how
well, if the material weren't leaving the site, then it wouldn't
Right.
be an excavation, so.
But if it was, I mean, what would the difference between a farm and a regular gravel operation be anyway? I mean, how would you even find that?
Fair point, yeah.
I guess for example, like from a wetlands perspective, they do have for the expansion of farmland. If you were doing something where you're clear cutting because you're trying to make an agricultural field larger because you want to expand crop production, or you're trying to create a larger field for keeping of animals, because whatever it is just isn't appropriate for whatever animals you have or something like that. If it was a legitimate reason that you're removing the material, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
To enhance farming.
Right, to enhancing the farming operation on the property. My understanding is there is no real active farming operation currently on that particular property, but.
No, and it doesn't sound like it was a major infraction. I talked to the first one.
Right.
It sounds like he had dealt with it personally, contacted the property owner personal, or not personally, but directly. And, hold on, you're in violation, you have to stop. I don't know if they, it sounds like they probably reached the 500-yard, limit, but how much over that, I don't know. So it doesn't sound like it was a massive infraction.
Right.
It sounds like it's a family issue anyway, where that's the family.
And they're just trying to work out what the best method of just moving forward would be.
Oh,
Yeah, said lots of personal other issues going on, but it doesn't sound like it was violation, but if they wanna do something moving forward, they'll have to at this point. Okay, anything else? Nothing else? All right, moving on, other business, number 9. A, regulation priorities. So where we left off was, because it was been so busy the last few months. With those two big well, it shouldn't have been big applications, but they were detailed and complicated, so. Let's just say they were detailed and complicated applications. We didn't have time to deal with this, but where we left off was, looking at a text amendment for non-conforming structures to make that section read the way it is intended to be interpreted. And it sounds, the way it's written now sounds much more restrictive than what is it intended to be. So it would be rewrite it so that it is more accurate and does not sound as restrictive as it is.
What section was that?
It is, yeah.
Five point zero two
Yeah.
and 5.03. So it's in, under Article 5, non-conforming buildings and lots.
Yeah, so, section A is any non-conforming structure may be continued as a non-conforming structure. However, the structure may not be expanded or enlarged in such a way as to increase the area, extent, or amount of non-conformity. And the structure may not be expanded or extended vertically or horizontally within a subject area.
Probably gonna have to review what we're talking about. Yeah, there some time.
Was it that section A, Jim? I think that was the.
Well, I think
Section.
that, but I think the other part of it was, I think it was specifically section 5.03 with non-conforming lots.
That's right.
Cause the
Oh, yeah,
concern
yeah,
was with the lots, cause we have so many lots that are non-conforming.
Correct.
And
Yep.
it was the language specifically where it says, any lot that, that is a non-conforming lot. And then it has that caveat that says, however, no building may be constructed on a non-conforming lot that does not have frontage on an accepted street
That's it right
unless the
there.
lot has access to the.
Yep, however.
There was one sentence just before it. There was something in there that basically says that from expansion or permanent structure.
I'm just reading it now. It's a little bit confusing. And I think we need to, I think it would be wise to clean this up a little bit.
Okay.
5.03 is rather confusing. It's not the easiest to read and understand. Yeah, this part is extremely restricted. However, no building may be constructed on a non-conforming lot that does not have frontage on an accepted street. Unless that lot has access to an accepted street over a permanent right of way or easement. I mean, that's almost saying if your lot isn't your minimum width, you can't build anything. I mean, that's almost what that says, but that's not the intention of the.
What is the intent? What is the intent? Let's say,
The intent is to not encroach on setbacks. But you can still build on a non-conforming lot that predates zoning, so.
When I did my addition on my house. I'm only an acre and a half only, and that's, I'm only 30 feet from the road, it's supposed to drive 50, I think.
Correct, yeah.
I had to come here and talk to them, because I blamed it on them for blocking me in, I mean, why can't I add on? And they agreed with me, as long as I couldn't go forward, I went.
Yeah, so that's the idea, is you don't increase the non-conformity, so
Right.
if your front setback is 30 feet, you're already 30. You're not making the 30 less.
Right, you can go left or right, but not go forward with it,
Right.
that's at least what they told me.
So that's pretty much, standard operating procedure for non-conforming in other towns that I've worked with, that I've seen. So I think we just need to amend this slightly to make it easier to understand, because I think most people are going to read this and not understand what they can or can't do.
weren't we also talking about like not conforming buildings on the lots too? We're talking about others. I don't remember exactly what it was. We were talking about special circumstances, I thought.
Well, it could be just like Ed's case, if you have a structure that is existing and non-conforming, you know, what can we do with that? So I think that's where we need to make a text amendment that deals with that specifically.
I had to get letters from all the neighbors.
So if it's an empty lot that's non-conforming, yeah, because you went to zoning board of appeals, that's that process, but if there were clear regulations for that existing non-conforming structure be expanded without increasing the non-conformity with the non-conforming portion of.
Either way, they would have to get a variance, right?
If an addition met a zoning regulation for a non-conforming, you would not meet your ZBA.
So you can word it, you can
Right.
go forward, but you can go left or right or up or down.
Right. If you were proposing to continue that non-conforming, then you would have to raise the. Jim, is this something you and I should, discuss over the next week or two and come back with a suggestion for review at the next meeting? That, I think that's a appropriate way to handle this, because you probably have some ideas, but aren't necessarily ready to present anything.
Yeah, because I think that this was. And I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
Yeah.
Because there was one specific sentence, if I
I
remember
remember.
correctly, that we had come up with that didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
It was A, I think 502A. Any non-conforming structure may be continued as a non-conforming structure. However, the structure may not be expanded or enlarged in any such way as to increase the area extent of non-conformity. And the structure may not be expanded or extended vertically or horizontally. It was like you couldn't make any changes to it if it was already non-conforming. But then the second sentence says limits it to expanding vertically or horizontally within a required setback. So I think it was a
So in
comment.
other words, if you're 30 feet from the road,
You
you
can't
can't
go
go
25.
25 feet flat to stay 30 feet.
But that first sentence makes it sound like you can't do it.
Can't do anything at all.
Yeah, may not be expanded or enlarged in such a way as to increase the area, extent or amount of non-conformity. Oh, this is confusing.
yeah. Yeah, I think we can work on, some language for the next meeting and then come back.
Something we'll work on.
Yeah, exactly. And if
So-
anyone has any suggestions, like.
So what makes a non-conforming building is a building that does not follow the setbacks. Is that the only thing in it?
Well, any dimensional requirement.
Probably
yeah,
a
whether
acreage
it's, yeah.
size too.
What do you mean,
It could be height, it could be,
we don't have anything about height in our rates.
Land size,
30 to 5 feet, I believe.
You could have, oh, if the building is higher than 35 feet, it's too tall.
Right. One thing to doing on the, at least, over years.
we need the building land size, 2 acres now.
Yes.
But if you had a non-conforming building on a non-conforming lot. You wanted to add on to it, as long as you're within the piece you're adding to it, as long as it's less than, we'll say 35 feet tall. And it has the proper setback, it would be good to go.
Well,
Right, so like
in my
in
case-
this case,
in my case, my house, you're supposed to have 50 feet from the road, but my house was only like 30, I think it was. I could not go any more than that.
But
He
you-
allowed me.
So you couldn't-
Behind your house.
so you
behind or
couldn't
left or
add,
right.
you couldn't add like a farmer's porch to the front
make it
and make
closer.
that less than 30 feet.
Okay.
You could add to the sides, as long as it's not making the 30 feet
As long as those setbacks.
go shorter, exactly.
Okay,
You know, provided that he has side setback on each side or on the one side. like he's not encroaching on that side setback.
So some of our wording that we have makes what we just discussed confusing, right?
Yes,
That's what we're trying to fix.
What about a situation where we're already violating the setback? Can they go horizontal? As I just said, you can't. Could they go that another floor where it's already?
As long as they're under 35.
Would we want-
well, that would be part of the discussion. How do we want to regulate that and how do we want to word it?
I think with an approved variance probably. And then we can move forward with it.
Well, we would be setting a standard that if that standard could not be complied with, then it would be a variance to do.
It works.
Yeah, it's all, don't worry about it, we're good. Okay, so then we'll work on something, we'll collaborate, or you can write something and I'll review it prior to.
Well, we
next meeting.
we can share back and forth.
Yeah, because the next issue I'm gonna want to work with you on over the next couple of weeks as well, before the next one.
So if it's 5 feet into the setback, you can't put a second story on. Because it's already, you're not, even though you're not expanding it horizontally any further, you're adding another floor above something that's.
That will be
already
a decision to
non-conforming.
make because that would be the
That's-
same thing as adding sideways.
But I think that's what this may not be extended vertically. Or horizontally.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what the intent is,
Have
so,
another story where you're already.
It's not that.
right, because,
They're trying together, it's not clear.
right, to use Ed's example, if you're
I can go this way.
If you're encroaching on the 50 feet, say 30 feet,
So
and you
I,
add a second story, you're essentially adding more structure within that 50-foot setback.
I mean, to be fair, that they built the house at 30, then they changed it to 50, so. That homeowner can never make their house better at that point, you know, so the variance would work well for us. So.
And I've seen I've definitely seen a regulation where, in other towns. Where, that's exactly the case. You can add horizontally or vertically within that setback area. So you could do an addition in the back, maybe if that front setback was your issue. So you wouldn't be allowed to go side to side or vertical.
started to back 5 feet. If you were 5 feet in.
Yes,
you'd have
right.
to start.
Yeah, something where it's very close, like maybe you're at 45 feet and you can step back 5 feet and then do your addition. I've seen some very close calls with zoning regulations in other towns.
None of those old things would be like grandfathered in, you know, when they change the law after church. You know, I've always heard that saying, oh, it's been grandfathered in. You're okay.
That's if something is existing, so that's what we refer to as existing non-conforming, so it's non-conforming, but it's existing, so as long as it remains there, then you can keep it. There is a section here that deals with being damaged by fire or
That-
collapse or
E.
neglect or something else, yeah.
On 502B.
And being able to be repaired or rebuilt in the same location. Some towns don't even allow that. They say if you're gonna rebuild, you have to rebuild within the regulations. Yeah, current regulations, and your grandfather clause went away when the building fell down.
Well, and that's something we'll have to we should probably also look at, because the state statute has actually strengthened the non-conforming clause where you really have to be able to prove abandonment in order for someone not to be able to,
Yeah.
as far as a non-conforming use or something like that. To say that they abandoned the use of a property, a non-conforming use or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we, you know, we probably don't have a lot of,
And this doesn't even talk about non-conforming uses, so.
all right, so a little bit of work to do in that section. Anything else there before we move on? Okay,
Any update on non-conforming buildings? Anybody tried wanting to do stuff in our town that they weren't able to do because of that, or it's like that?
I haven't heard of anything, but it's, and anything that would have happened would have been just like as case they would go to ZBA.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think the last one was the one on Newport Road that I know of. Where it was a side yard setback
I haven't necessarily heard a complaint.
or front yard setback, and they were looking to apply the that regulation that puts taking the average of the two structures,
Yeah,
the two principal structures on the adjacent side type thing.
even more complicated of
Right.
a description, so yeah.
So for the minutes, you two will work together on this.
Yeah, we'll come up with some verbiage for the next meeting to review.
When you're bouncing text back and forth,
Yep.
can you email me as well? Of course, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm just copy everybody. Okay, moving on, 9B, discussion regarding solar field legislation. So this was something that I talked to a number of different people in town, including someone from the fire department. And it seems like there's some concern over solar fields and what happens when they go bankrupt after 5 years, like some others in the area have done, maybe not 5 years, but in a fairly short amount of time. What happens when they age out? You know, are they abandoned? Are they cleaned up? I've heard in some cases where panels have aged out, they remove the panels, but they leave all the below grade foundations in place, which could be a concrete pier with a, you know, short piece of steel tubing sticking out of it that, you know, be easy to
So there,
crash into.
there is no, it would be possible for us to write some text like that, similar to like, excavating with regard to this, correct? As long as it doesn't go against, what's in state statute.
Right, so
An example would be, we just described, when they, after the 20 years, when they're supposed to remove it, they leave the part of the structure there. That's very similar to like, not covering up your ground.
reclamation, exactly, yeah,
Same thing.
yeah.
And in that case, what we do is we require a bond.
I actually talked to Heather Summers about this, and she said, towns basically have no power. It's run by, I forget what department it was in the state.
The Connecticut Siting Council.
Yeah, citing, that's what she said. I said, what can we do? She said, nothing, it's a Ned Wilmot's baby, and this is just the way it is. So if they wanna put it in, they're gonna put it in, it's gonna be by the city.
Force that there. If we.
Well,
that's.
There is gonna be a
Not
bond.
mention the bond, you know, reclamation bond, which is similar to excavating.
Cause it's the same kind of thing, you know, when they're all done with it, and it's no longer functioning,
Yeah, what happens, you have 200 acres.
clean it up.
Right. That's what my question is, what's the bond, how much is that bond, how do you determine how much it's gonna be, does it have inflation, you know, is there gonna be enough money there to clean it up?
That would be the discussion. I'd intended to have this discussion with Jim like over the last 2 weeks so that we would be prepared a little bit for this with a little bit more information, but I didn't have time. I just ran out of time, so we didn't have that discussion. Jim, that's part of why I tried calling you on Friday. You were getting on a plane or something and I said, oh, well, you might be, I don't even know if he's gonna be at this meeting tonight, he might be on vacation, I figured. So yeah, so what we're just talking about here, the idea is that I had talked to some citizens about.
There's-
Is there a danger with high tension wire, fires when it's? Heated or?
So the discussion I had with someone from the fire department was not necessarily regarding power or wires or high voltage. It was apparently these panels can catch fire and you cannot put water on them. You have to use foam if you're hardened.
Suppression systems.
So I don't know what we would be able to do on a zoning commission regarding that, but
You couldn't allow that to happen. From fire department, once it comes to snuff to be able to go and put it out.
yeah, I'm not
That would
sure.
be, that would be responsible.
Did you have the same problems with panels on roofs?
I believe so,
So,
but I don't know that much
So
about
if
it.
they catch on fire, there'd be a problem with your house. They would put the fire out.
That's my understanding, yes. Ms. Massey, you raised your hand. Would you like to say something?
Yes, Steve is right about we really don't have any say, except what they told me when I called the siting council is, if we had zoning with particular things or ordinances for particular things, that would slow them down or maybe make them look somewhere else. But we don't. And I know that, Dayville was able to, defeat the solar panels coming in there, but it's because they had zoning against it. That was when it was gonna be around Alexander's Lake, something was gonna be put in there. You're right also that they do change their names after they, put these things in. And, either it goes out of business or they change the name, you can't get them again. The other thing is they put in 83 to 88, I forget the number, in Connecticut already, and our electric rates have gone higher rather than lower because we don't get the benefit of the solar panels where they're taking down all these trees and whatnot. They sell the power to, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine, I believe. And after 20 years, you can't recycle these things. So as they say, they tried to find some, they didn't say ignorant, but that's what they meant. Farmer who has a lot of land and would take on these things to bury them 6 feet deep. But they still have all the metallic things in them that, which some people say that's toxic. And so they're 6 feet deep, but they're still leaching. This is what they said. And then they decrease in potency, they said at least 5% every year. And a big farm like that, they call it farm, it's really an industrial park. It's not policed. So we can't even keep our track from being destroyed with vandals and unparented hoodlums. What's to keep them from throwing rocks, dirt, or whatever, or messing around up there or down there, because it's force and bellavance on these things, and who's responsible for that? And you're right about the foam, they can't put water on it, and so there's gotta be a way to get fire trucks up there. They did say they have foam on the fire trucks. So it's a huge undertaking. Also, if they are snow covered, there's nobody destined to go up there and clean them all off so that they'll work. They don't work until the snow melts. And that's all I could think of in the last 5 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. So just for clarity, this commission is unbiased regarding an application. We have to address an application based on the merits of the application and how it applies to
You know
our
what, though?
regulation.
It does make sense. I mean, we have rules for campgrounds, we have rules for excavations. We have all kinds of rules like that. To make the things, to make what people doing it safe.
That's where I was
It
going.
makes sense, we
Yep.
should do the same thing for solar.
That's where I was going. with
Like, we
it,
should
yes.
start working on it now. You can, so some things might be, you have to have a certain clearance so you can get your fire truck in there. Just like we have with our driveway regulations. So one of the things that Patty brought up that have to do with safety and stuff, those should be in those rules.
In the bond, I think there's.
And the bond, so we can reclaim
There
it.
has to be some kind of
They're
real
real, it's,
amount of money that's gonna be able to clean that up when it's all done.
it's the same thing as a gravel pit. You don't want them walking away and just leaving it there. when it's no longer useful or no longer produces power, you don't want these 50-year-old things sitting there rotting away.
I totally agree.
So,
Yeah, right,
those are, those, so, you know, Heather Summers might have said you can't do anything, but you can. You can make sure that it's done in a responsible manner.
But the city council has to follow our ordinance if we.
Of course they do.
No,
The siting council.
I didn't think they did.
But if you, not what about the person putting it in? If you had a, so you can do, you can't control things like, right away for fire trucks or how much road frontage they have or anything like that.
not to my knowledge. Connecticut Siting Council has total jurisdiction. There is a process that the town, I believe, can go through where you can petition a application to the Siting Council for a public hearing to be held within your town. Where the, where you, some of these types of things can be brought up. Because a lot of towns already had, like before the Siting Council became a thing.
Mhm.
They had regulations for cell towers. They had regulations some already had regulations for, you can go out right now and find regulations in a lot of zoning for, solar. For cell towers, for solar, all that kind of stuff. But when a cell tower gets put up, the Siting Council doesn't have to they may go and present to the Planning and Zoning Commission as a,
Like,
Right.
the siting council will present on behalf of the.
or the engineer or the company may present to them for a informational and just kind of say, hey, we just want to get some feedback from you guys type of thing. But they don't necessarily need an approval, I don't believe, from the commission.
Just out there.
So there's no power whatsoever to even have any kind of safety or bond or anything like that. It's all based on what the siting council does.
I think I don't think the Planning and Zoning Commission has the ability to do it. The first selectman in the town may have more power with the siting council to make requests to say, hey, this is something we would like to see within this application process.
Would that be a written ordinance?
I don't think it matters.
It would have to be something that's gone through the town, a public hearing and approval process, like a text amendment would be, or any addition to these regulations. It seems like there would have to be a process that would have to have been, basically approved by the town for it to have any effect. Just a council of 3 selectmen. It doesn't seem like it would wield a lot of power on a state level, as if it were a written ordinance or a written.
I'm going by, for example, you brought up Alexander's Lake. Alexander's Lake was not a solar project. That was a generator plant that was going up at Alexander's Lake. So you're talking about a gas-powered generator plant that was being fought. And what eventually killed that project was more that they couldn't get the gas to actually run the thing.
So it had nothing to do with regulations.
So, and Killingly negotiated a whole bunch of stuff with them to, so from that standpoint, I could, the town manager who was at Killingly at the time and went through that whole process is now working with NECOG as a town administrator for a lot of small towns. And I can pick her brain and find out what exactly is it that the towns can do within that siting council process to interject themselves
I think that would be valuable.
in a, into, I guess, but cause I don't think like, one. Depending on when cause have they actually applied to the siting council yet? So with the application already in, any regulation that you put in now, or
February 20.
anything like that, I don't think is gonna have any effect on their application.
Oh, cause they already applied.
Because they've already applied
Like
to the
if
siting
somebody, if
council.
we changed our
Right,
excavation things and.
but
Next
even
month.
though they've already applied to the siting council, there are procedures and a process that they have to go through. That I think that the town can interject into the process and request certain things. Throughout that process,
And they don't make a decision until August, because
right,
Jack talked to the siting council. And, you're right in that we can give them our opinions and our desires and wants. If it does any good, we're lucky. If it doesn't, we're not.
because they have to follow a certain procedure of. And that's why they go to the towns, hold these informational, because they're required to hold informational meetings to. I think right now, I just heard on the radio on my way here, I think that the smart incinerator project in Plainfield is going to be holding more public informational meetings at the library about how their process is gonna be. And you haven't heard anything about that in like the last 4 months. And suddenly they're gonna be holding more informational meetings because they're required by the siting council to do these things in a certain manner and within certain deadlines, that type of thing.
But we have no power.
So as part of their application, they submit town of Plainfield zoning regs and town of Sterling inland wetlands, plan of conservation and development, our zoning regulations are all submitted as part of the application to the siting council. There's a lot, there's letter T, what's that, 20 appendices? And an additional figures with maps, 10 cover letter narrative, so it's.
Usually because usually they send a document to the COG. We usually get copied on every siting council application as well. I haven't actually seen it, and they're usually all this thick. And they've got everything in the world underneath them. But there is a process that the town can usually interject at least their concerns, what they would like to see. If they want public, because you can even, I think, interject that you want, if you want public hearings to be held within your town as opposed to at the actual siting council offices or something to those effect. But what I can do is I can definitely talk with those in our office if the town hasn't actually talked with the town attorney or anything to see if they wanted to specifically about these types of issues.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the more information we can gather, I think the better. And if there is any opportunity to include something in our legislation, I think we should still look at doing that, whether it applies to this application or not. Or some of these guys could go bankrupt next week, they could lose their interest, they could not be the right property for them.
So even if it does go through, we should still.
Yeah,
for
let's-
the future,
Yeah,
people that wanna do the same thing, we should, maybe.
Because we can also look at other, because you can look at solar. Not only just these types of solar projects, but solar in general. When it comes to residential to some degree, as well as commercial, as well as the large scale.
Should we bring wind farm into place since we're gonna be at the same level?
Mhm.
good, yeah.
That makes sense.
Bring one to.
They've already thought.
The wind option, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do have,
Judy, did you say they already applied?
we do have a very large open pillar
February
now.
20th.
So.
And the decision date had
That's very windy, as we know from the snow drifts that we
Across the spine, the rest is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it all falls under the same.
Right.
Topic.
Taking up farmland for other things, energy.
Yeah, farmland, forest land.
I think it, first thing we need to figure out is it worth doing? I mean, do we have any power? Is our legislation gonna make any difference whatsoever? I mean, we wanna spend time doing that.
Well, if our zoning regulations and P O C D are included in the package that goes to the siting council.
They can still
then
just say
it-
no,
It
can't
can't
they?
hurt to,
I mean,
you know, get the point across that. Not,
Right.
not necessarily that. The zoning, planning and zoning commission is biased
Right.
against solar, but it's, we don't want to mess. We don't want to mess.
Right. And I don't think it's so much that they,
To avoid a mess, that's all.
because it doesn't look, let's put it this way, it doesn't look good for them to look at those things and just say, well, we're not doing that. If they see
Right,
something that you do have something within there, they may look to accommodate
That's exactly my point, yeah.
and at least take those, if, because nobody's gonna want to go into, and I guess I could use this as an example. We had the warehouse, what was it, the 500,000 square foot warehouse going in across from the office of us at NECOG on Route 12, right across the street. It's my understanding, first two public hearings, of course, nobody in the world was for it, except for the developer. But my understanding is it's being withdrawn just because
Too much hassle.
there's just too, right. They didn't really have anyone to actually go into it, I don't believe. It was just kind of a speculative project, so
that's the one up there, like by the Chamber of Commerce, something that. area?
no,
Oh.
that one has someone going into it.
Oh, okay. Do they know who yet? Have they admitted who's going? Because I heard that was a secret. Just curious.
If Jim told me after for me, so.
No,
And it'll be.
I'm actually not sure who that one is, but that one does have, I believe, because that one also has, I think it also has ASHTO approval already from DOT, at least the first level of ASHTO approval, which this other one does not, they didn't really take too much consideration into truck traffic. They had a traffic study done, but they hadn't really had too many conversations with DOT, which I think is where things kind of.
Yeah, there's any number of reasons these projects can fall apart, so.
Right.
There's no control over it, at least maybe they can follow some of the rules.
Yeah, so if there's something we can do that shows that, you know, our goal as a town is really just to. Not have a mess behind whatever type of industrial.
Find a
Right.
crack in there, exploit the crack,
Then,
one crack in the
you
other.
know, we're a reasonable town, but, you know, we want to keep our town clean.
And being that it is a split. Part of it is in Plainfield, I don't know what,
Right, that.
what else Plainfield is doing
Doubles the.
on their side.
Yeah, they may have. There may be issues on the Plainfield side that mixes the whole thing, you know. Yeah. Okay, so we can do a little research. And have a little discussion, we'll be prepared for the next meeting to do something,
It's,
if we want to do something.
somebody said this company has 85 of these things in Connecticut?
Not particularly that company, but across Connecticut.
Oh, there's
they're-
20
They're
85 of these
83, 85, 88.
big solar things.
Yes, and our electricity bills have gone up in the last 7 days.
Yeah, I haven't seen an electricity bill go down with all these.
So
things.
that would make sense for the legislation to have, if we have solar panels and stuff, that they get used locally as opposed to selling it, because that's the way our rules are written.
Yeah.
When
We don't
they
get any,
when they deregulated it, that kind of.
mhm. We get no benefit at all.
The problem is it's an invisible commodity, is where it goes.
People that benefit is gonna be Mr. Corson leasing his property, which is like a sand and gravel pit.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bellavance, for his acreage,
Yeah,
leasing it. We don't get any benefit. And they have to truck these things across the country because they come in from China,
Yeah,
they're made in China.
Yeah.
And only 23 can go into one truck. And so there's a lot of trucks that are gonna be coming in and delivering these things.
So we're not gonna benefit in any way, the town, but if there was some,
Taxes,
There'd be property tax assessment, yeah.
taxes, yeah.
Property real estate taxes. What they had said was it'd be $250,000 a year between real estate and personal property. The bulk of it is the personal property, which is the value of the panels. And there's some, I was talking to Bill Sebastian about it, and they don't depreciate the way other personal.
I was gonna say, what's the depreciation?
Kind of stays at a higher level. I didn't ask for really detailed explanation, but that number of 250, I'm like, well, that's 250 now, but what is it gonna be?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I
there,
think
but
it's
it
the same
stays,
thing, yeah.
so it's friendly.
so what happens hypothetically if the company goes out of business in 5 years, is the property owner gonna be responsible for,
The person who owns the real estate,
yeah,
they don't own the personal property,
they don't own it.
it's leased. Property's leased, they don't own the personal property,
So then the people out of business will do.
so then we would sue.
Sounds like a situation where something falls through the cracks.
But
Your point
again,
there.
there's that, I don't know what the bond says, what the proposed bond, I'm trying to see what they proposed.
It's okay, well, it's gonna be a discussion next one too, so,
For a couple of months.
yeah, I might do that.
Sheep grazing will be used to control vegetation,
Right.
that's in there.
What is it?
Sheep grazing.
Well, that's tweeting, I didn't even get to that concern, but that's another concern
Appendix
that
O.
I have had, but I also heard from other people in the last couple of weeks.
Not the sheep.
Is, well, herbicide,
Oh,
herbicide to control weeds, Cause there's, well, I guess there's apparently 3 ways to control weeds, one is a large crew and string trimmers. And the other option is herbicide.
Or sheep,
Or, and then there's the sheep option, so
And
that's,
that's-
yeah, I heard that.
that's appendix O.
I think goats is better,
I'm gonna say that
goats
goats,
eat everything,
well, goats may eat the
it's
wires.
poison ivy and everything. Hmm.
Things are even better. Okay. Yeah.
Well, then it'll just be dirt.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It'll be dusty, it'll water down control the dust. Oh, it's a big enough area, probably, but. Okay, I mean, so we'll do some research, those, some good discussion there. And we'll come back next month with some ideas, I'll come to you again. See what, power we have, if any. And then we'll move on, we can move on to the next item. Which. Sounds like it's also limiting the power of the town and more power to the state.
The,
25-1 HB 8002.
Now, I was not able to do the Thursday one either, because I had another meeting for Pomfret doing a P O C D. So I don't know.
I can give a brief overview of, you know, what it was. It basically, there's a number of different, pieces of the legislation. And a lot of them don't really apply to the town of Sterling. There's parking, there's a parking change. This fact will, change or not allow towns to include required parking of multifamily developments. Where typically with multifamily developments, you'll see a requirement by the town for off-street parking. This eliminates that. This will be, which makes no sense to me, because there has always been off-street parking included with these development projects. And this would eliminate that. And I don't understand why, but it doesn't affect the town of Sterling because, you know, we just don't have that here. We don't have parking.
I think it's a push to public transportation.
So,
No,
I mean,
not really.
so
It doesn't, it's just, that's how they worded it, but it's not really what it is.
Require off-street parking.
So they could just park around.
And one of the there were questions on this, and one of the explanations was that, well, it would be in the developer's best interest to have to parking, because they make their property more saleable. It's like, well, since when has the government said, let's leave it for the people to do the right thing? So I didn't quite understand that, but like, it doesn't really apply to us, so I just kind of moved on and didn't try to memorize too much from that portion. I tried to just stick with understanding what actually would apply to us. And the parking portion wasn't one of them. Another portion was, regarding, government-owned like state parks, or state parks, park area and, transit authority spaces. Hostile architecture is now,
Hostile.
I said, okay, my business is architecture, and I don't know what hostile architecture.
Hostile architecture is basically what they're saying is,
Oh, I wanted to give the fun part.
okay, go ahead. You go ahead.
Let me see if I can get this right. So hostile architecture is. I wish I had the definition in front of me, but I will try my best. It is defined as, architecture that would inhibit the use of public spaces by the unhoused. So the example was a bench that has no intermediate armrests, so to prevent people from sleeping or laying down on it, like you see at the airport. All the airports have intermediate armrests so that people aren't sleeping on the benches. So they can only use for sitting, so that's considered hostile architecture. So again,
So.
not a problem in town of Sterling, so I didn't really say.
Open to the homeless so that they can use all of the, part that they do, there's in it, almost have to be able to use all the public facilities that exist.
And it doesn't apply to private spaces, only public. So it has to be town or city owned infrastructure
So we have to
to qualify.
instead of park benches, we need park chairs.
So you can have a bench, you just can't have intermediate armrests that prevent someone from lying
You
down.
could have three pillows.
It's not really a bench.
Yeah.
It's a chair.
Yeah, just do chairs. They didn't say you can't do chairs, they just said if you have a bench, it has to be an open bench. So, yeah, just move open into system. I just thought it was very interesting, like, we're really, this is where we're going, okay, fine, that's fine. Again, it doesn't really affect us, I mean, I don't,
Did you, what,
the
Did you
new
pick up-
gazebo is already built, so
what did
it's
you pick up
grandfathered in.
that will affect this? Did you pick up anything?
Right, so that would be the affordable housing. So there's a new, it sounds like what the state is going to do is the, Office of Policy and Management, OPM, is going to determine an allocation of affordable housing units for the entire state, and they're going to divvy that up amongst each cog, which is going to be Jim's problem. And then each cog is going to then divvy up those affordable housing units to each town within their cog.
Okay,
So it sounds like at some point in the next couple of years, we're going to receive our quota of affordable housing units, and we're going to have to rewrite our whole affordable housing plan to comply with that number.
so
Then
then
you have to build something?
I'll give you an A for effort,
So that's how I understand.
but. So essentially what it is the housing growth plan aspect of it is, I don't know if you remember, a little bit, back a little ways. They had, a company do a fair share housing, study for the whole state of Connecticut. So the way that you should actually think about this is not just affordable housing. Because what the OPM is going to be looking at and what OPM is going to be, and if you look at if you start with looking at, when it comes to the housing growth plan, you start looking at this. So the first two things that are going to happen in those regards is, and we're already involved with OPM. I got another meeting on Thursday talking about, the regional plans and everything.
Yeah.
So the requirements are that, right now it's in the state's court, I guess, in regards to the OPM has to come up with a statewide housing number. They're not coming up with an affordable housing
Oh, yeah,
number.
so it's not affordable.
The state is coming up with a housing need number for the state. And it's not, and what they're looking at is, it's an abstract number. It's not like this is the number that we need, houses that we need built. It's kind of this is an abstract of, based on our population and our population's need, these are,
Maybe they're looking at a percentage growth year on.
right.
thing.
These, and what we think are the amount of housing units and housing types that we believe is needed throughout the state. And they're going to break that out by region. So they're gonna give a number to our region, our 16 towns. They're gonna say, NECOG, this is what we think the NECOG region needs in regards to housing units. And they're going to do that, if you look at the dates that are listed, so everything in here in blue is what OPM has to do. Everything in here in yellow is what the COGs have to do. Everything in here in green is what municipalities will be required to do.
A lot of green.
But the green technically really only comes into play depending on whether the town decides if they're going to participate in the regional housing plan, or they're gonna go it alone and do their own housing plan. So essentially,
We should expand on that too, because it sounds like the state will provide a certain amount of money. I don't know if it's to the COG. Or
the state has actually already started providing, starting this year, although this year they only provided half. They're providing a grant to the COGs to increase staffing levels for both, housing as well as, stormwater. Well, the way they did it was housing and either stormwater or, it was like, recycling or waste management
Yeah.
originally.
Yeah, there's.
But my understanding is they're going back to the legislature and they're going to reword that so that it says and or, so that the funds could be used for doing either.
Some towns may need one, towns may need.
Right, because they didn't like the fact that you had to either use it for stormwater or use it for recycling programs or things like that. They wanted the money to be more flexible so that if you wanted to use it for both types of programs. But either way,
So would the town be required to build some buildings?
No.
Become a builder?
No.
Oh, I see.
no, what it essentially does is essentially, so by March or by what is the date? By the end of this year, December is when OPM has to provide us with our final number. We are currently going through OPM, coming up with what the methodology is going to be to come up with what these numbers are. And it's kind of like a trickle down theory in regards to, this is what we're saying, the amount of housing that the COG may need. And then based on that amount of housing, the COG will eventually have to divvy that up into each municipality. And then at the bottom, what's gonna end up shaking out is, all right, how many of all these housing units that we think we need to be affordable units? And when they're talking affordability in regards to this program, it's not the same as the affordability when you think of 830G. Because all they're looking at when they think affordability in regards to these housing growth plans is they're just looking at it in their mind as deed restricted units,
Okay, so we're right.
not like CHFA section 8.
So
type
we
stuff.
prepared to, we will be required to prepare not a new affordable housing plan, but a housing plan in parallel to that affordable housing plan.
Yes, but you are unique.
Oh, because
Did
we're
you-
under 15,000.
Nope, because you are I have to get this
Oh, oh.
abbreviation right, because you are one of the 20,
Distressed.
not distressed, what are they, angel, we have to call them
Yeah,
angel
Angel, that's
communities.
what it was, yeah.
But the acronym, I have to look it up because otherwise. Adjusted equalized net grand list per capita community,
Just what?
Yeah, Angel.
angels, we call them, AENGLC. So you are the lowest ranked adjusted equalized net grand list per capita community within our COG. We have 3. It is Sterling, it is Plainfield,
I thought that was us, and not Ballin now.
and I believe the other one is Thompson, I think, within our region,
Yeah, I noticed that on the map during.
or is it Putnam? I don't remember off the top of my head. But essentially what that means is when we do our regional plan, we cannot allocate any affordable housing units to Sterling.
Okay, great.
It doesn't mean,
That won't be out of compliance.
nope,
No.
it doesn't mean
Doesn't
Sterling,
change anything that we currently.
Sterling can't choose to, like, when you do your growth plan, or when your growth plan, your housing growth plan,
Well, it sounds like we would never want to opt out. We would.
part of it would be part of the regional, your aspect within the regional plan has different categories that you would have to address, being a angel community as opposed to every other community. So there are different ones, and if you look at this document, it will show, I think on page I think it's page 11. Under F, it says the HDP plan elements for, we call them angel communities. And there are 4 of them that have to be addressed within their growth plans, which are the rehabilitation and preservation of existing affordable units, development without displacement, infrastructure needs for existing neighborhoods, and opportunities for new affordable units. So you still have to address some of those things within your plan, but you don't have to be allocated a certain number, I guess. So you don't have to show, for example, with other towns, if we allocate a number, they have to actually kind of show theoretically where that number could potentially go within their community.
But in the end, who pays to build these units?
Nobody could be building those units.
So this is just a paper exercise?
Correct.
It doesn't really help us get more affordable housing.
Well, doesn't it, like, make it easier for a developer to come in and build?
That's the idea, is that if you're
We could
If
have
you're a
many
community,
restrictions that are
for example,
strict, and that could be an
right,
issue.
there are communities that don't,
Yeah, cause they can hide behind this stuff, right?
right, there are communities that don't allow, such as yourself,
With a
who don't allow a more than a 2-unit home or any multifamily homes, or their lot sizes are 3 or 4 acres. So the intent of the growth plan is to say, okay,
We have.
show us how you're going to decrease the barriers to, one, not just affordable units, but to housing in general. Like,
You need 4 acres.
are there areas, like, what things could you do to, and it's not saying you have to open up your whole town to housing. Because that aspect where it talks about the buildable, where it talks about your buildable land. Part of the reason, and everyone's getting kind of excited about, well, they wanna know where our buildable land is and everything else. Well, in our conversations with OPM understands they're not defining buildable land intentionally. Because they understand that every community is different. What their priorities in their community is gonna be different. So they're leaving that more or less kind of up to the regions with their conversations with the communities as to what the community's priorities are to define buildable land and that type of thing. So like if you're but to the extent that you can't just say that, well, everything is protected, there has to be somewhere that things could be a little less restricted or something along those lines. I mean, obviously you have, in Sterling, you're a little different than a lot of other agricultural communities because you do have sewer, you do have water in some areas. Town of Eastford doesn't have sewer and water anywhere. Either does, well, Pomfret does have a little bit, but Hampton doesn't, Chaplin doesn't, all those other places don't have access to any of that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be a little harder for them to identify some of those areas where they could increase a density. So they're gonna have to come up with some other different types of, I guess, accommodations.
Is that something we're gonna need to look at some point, Jim?
Yes.
Creating another zone or something else where.
Well, it may not.
Define, because buildable area could be very difficult to define when you don't have a zone that you can associate with it.
Right, it might be something that may just make it easier, and it might.
I open up more than.
And the other advantage, and this could be a possibility, because the other thing that this growth, that the act actually does, is it does give the opportunity to, if you do identify certain zones where you do increase densities to a certain level, it opens up the opportunity to funding from the state for infrastructure needs. If you need to do sewer upgrades, if you need to do water upgrades, if you need things like that to get paid for, in order to accommodate any of this type of infrastructure, there are grants that they're putting out there that you would become eligible for. Should you apply that?
Would police and fire fall in that category, from getting funds from the state?
I think they may. I'm trying to remember. They were trying to encompass a lot of different things to encourage. Right. Understanding that these are the types of things that are gonna be in appropriate areas. To try to make it more of, I guess, more of the carrot than the stick idea. So as far as the actual housing plan part, and I think the way, from a timeline standpoint, so right now we're more or less still waiting for OPM to come up with their number. Meanwhile, and I will say, this is kind of a side note, we did just sign a contract with Ty and Bond. We have another grant with OPM that has to do with parcel and GIS and CAMA data. And I think we're giving them like 30 grand to do work on your GIS layers to update a lot of the parcel polygon stuff with your tax assessor, not tax assessor, your town clerk mapping. A lot of the surveys that you currently have don't necessarily match the GIS layers. So they're going to be doing a lot of work over the summer on updating a lot of that.
Time bomb.
Time bond is. Which should help with at least with the mapping aspect of a lot of that.
Cool, yeah. I found a few that didn't line up.
Oh, we always find stuff, so we've been working with them. To do some updating, and that will help with creating that buildable area kind of, or buildable mapping data.
So it sounds like we'll have some work to do on this over the next couple of years. This is all gonna take time. I think, what was the total deadline date? It was like 2020.
We have to have the regional plan done by is it
December,
December of 2028 or the June
June
2028?
2028.
June 2028.
June.
But I think there's a certain point, once we determine what your number is, which is before we actually do the plan, we have to announce to all the towns what the number is that we come up with. Obviously, yours is gonna be 0, unless for some reason you fall out of the angel category. But, the towns have to have 30 days from when we announce that to say whether or not they're going on their own or whether they're going to be part of the regional plan.
It sounds like it would be quite painful to opt out and write our own. That sounds like it would be very expensive. So I don't see why anyone would opt out.
Oh, for something.
Not practical.
Well, we have to hire somebody like Heike to write this whole thing for us.
You won't be able to umbrella the state, that's the thing, of the state.
Well, we still have to correspond. We couldn't overrule anything that would be on the OPM side. Right, I mean, that would be typical, right, Jim? That
Basically, what happens is if you decide to, like, when we allocate a number to a town, the town can basically say, we don't like that number. We're gonna come up, this is what we think the number should be. And then it's a weird thing, then the region reviews the number and actually says whether that number is okay. And OPM actually never sees it. And they either can still go into the regional plan with a new number, or they can go out and do their own plan with the new number.
Yeah,
So,
it sounds like an opt-in situation to me.
right,
That's what I
it's
gather.
kind of a weird,
Does that number change, like, a distressed town will change, sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. Well, that.
from year to year. Well, once the number is given, I think the number is probably good for like because the plans are supposed to be good for, we're just looking at that number over like a 5-year period.
Yeah,
So it's not like, so that number basically is good because we have to update the plan, I believe, every 5 years,
housing,
the regional plan.
oh, you do.
So, and I don't believe there's any penalty, so if the town doesn't do their plan, or if the regional plan doesn't get done, there's no penalty to the town. If the regional plan doesn't get done, the penalty is to the region. So basically what it does is the funding that we talked about earlier, they basically will hold back our funding.
it's like $200,000 or something.
It's $400,000 a year until the plan is completed.
So it doesn't benefit you to not
Right.
plan, that's a pretty good incentive, $400,000.
It is gonna be 0, what's the difference if we put a plan together or not, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And the most,
Yeah, we're not in an opt-in situation.
the most that can be allocated to any town is 20%, I believe, of the current building units within the town.
Current. So a 2-family is 2 building units?
Yeah. But I don't think any of our, because if I remember correctly, based on the initial fair share housing numbers that they had that came out, they weren't a lot of, for our region, it wasn't a huge number that they had come up with. And again, they're not necessarily a number that they're saying you have to build. It's kind of a number that they're saying that it's almost like I said, it's like a planning number. It's like hey, this is what you're looking to accommodate if you were planning, like, where could you actually have this number of units built over the next 5, 10, 15 years, something like that. Type of thing. And it's not necessarily building them. They're also looking at strategies to say, because what they're looking at is deed restricted units. They're like, how can you create a deed restricted unit? It could be,
What is a deed restricted unit?
it's basically a unit that has a deed restricted that it's going to be sold or owned by someone who is making either 30, 50, or 80% of the median household income of the area, which usually when they say the area, it's either the region or the county for 40 years. So you could take any house that's on the market now and you could make it a deed restricted unit. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to build one.
It would make a lot more sense to build like a multi-family, which would fall under the not reviewed by the town and would not be able to be refused, and make that a deed restricted, because anybody can do that at any time.
You don't have to build
It
houses.
would completely bypass the zoning regulations.
So existing two families in the town, did they opt in, deed restrict it and do that?
Oh, yeah. Anyone could actually deed restrict their property.
And so they would be able to get money to remodel their house from the state to fix it up?
I'm not sure if they've got a program for that yet.
I think it's more, I think it's more a avenue to create more affordable housing units by bypassing zoning regulations that otherwise would not allow it, like multifamily in the town. So we don't allow that, but if you were to do a deed restricted affordable housing multifamily, the town of Sterling could say no.
So a lot of builders can go.
Well, that would be like an 830G application.
That's
what you're
what it
saying.
is, yeah.
Right,
That's the number I was saying.
right. An 830G application is but you have to have an affordable housing plan. There's a structure to that where you,
Right.
and you come in essentially and say, this is what my affordable plan is. These are the regulations that I'm gonna do it under. And you don't even have to have all of them. You only have to have usually like 30% of the units have to be affordable in order to fit under those that type of a program. You don't have to have all of them. A certain amount can be still market.
Like Pennyman Mills in Norwich, some of them were affordable.
Right.
Some.
Right. But as you were saying, there are also some actual regulations that are, and that is, if you're looking at this, once you get past section, I think it's 4, 5, and 6 talks about the housing plans. And then when you get to section 7 talks about recommended municipal goals, and then I think it was section 16. I only kind of printed off, and what I can do is, this is all from a document, a summary document that was put together by the COG working group. And all of these are links to not only the statute, but the Office of Legislative Research summaries and things, which we can forward out to everyone. It's a 80-something page document, but it has all these individual links to them as well. To the actual statutes with some further explanation and things. But these are the individual, I guess, text amendments that you probably talked about, that what action deadline is like July 1st, 2026, that talk about like the certain anywhere that you have mixed use development, or any of your zones that allow mixed use development. You have to allow what they call, by definition, transit community middle housing development.
Well, we're one zone and we do allow mixed. use, so we don't not allow it, we don't restrict mixed use. So we're already there.
Right, so basically what it is the short summary explains that any zone that is zoned for commercial or mixed use development, you have to allow this transit community middle housing development or mixed use development on any lot that is zoned for commercial or mixed use development, subject only to what they call summary review. And did they explain in the thing what summary review is?
Well, if they did, I didn't pick up on it.
Summary review is essentially site plan review.
Yeah, okay.
For all intents and purposes, that's what summary review is. I don't know why they just don't call it site plan review. I think it's defined that way for a particular reason.
Maybe
What they're essentially saying is
versus site
they
plan.
don't want you to have the whole special permit requiring extra public hearings and have they're trying to make it so that if they meet the regulation, it's allowed.
Yeah,
So if the site plan follows all the site plan requirements, there's no subjectivity into it. So that is, I guess one of the big changes, and that's one of the things that a lot of towns that have a lot of districts and a lot of commercial districts within them.
yeah.
For the town of Sterling, because you only have one district and everything is allowed in that one district, it's hard to say whether or not.
By state statute.
Hmm?
Anything that is allowed by state statute.
Right, it's hard to say that, I guess this kind of applies, and because it's residential, it's not something necessarily that would come to the commission anyway, it would be done through
On the ZEO level.
on the ZEO level. My only question, I guess, would be is because you don't allow units, you don't allow anything, multifamily units, does it apply?
So mixed use could only be one residential and one commercial unit? Based on our current regulations.
Yeah, but their definition of a transit community middle housing development is going to be more than one residential unit. I believe theirs are like, I don't have the definition right in front of me, but I believe they're talking multi-unit developments. So this is like one of the things that I would consider possibly, if nothing else, maybe asking council to say, hey, how does this affect Sterling as it sits now? How does it not? Or does it not? Because you don't allow multifamily, does that override the fact
I
that,
would imagine that would override that,
right,
typically that's what state
at this stage,
regulations do.
or does it?
I can't think of one instance where the state would defer to the town regulation and say, oh yeah, our state regulation doesn't apply, town overrules that.
They got it.
Right,
I mean,
I don't know.
when has that ever happened? Oh, I just noticed, one other thing that, I forgot about. They changed the definition of mobile manufactured home,
Yes,
and this does apply to us. And, the new definition is that it's a single-family house built to the federal manufactured home construction and safety standards, basically state building code. So that is that is attached to a foundation. I think it's fine. I think it mentioned that part. So this basically restricts campers or anything that is built to recreational vehicle standards from being declared as a single family, as being a mobile manufactured home.
So any,
So a mobile home needs to be building code construction, not recreational vehicle construction.
even if it doesn't have a foundation on it.
Well. I'd have to look into the foundation a little bit further, because. You can anchor a, mobile home with. Screw.
You can pull the wheel.
Helical pile. Hold downs that aren't necessarily a concrete foundation, so. I think there might have to be a little bit more research on that, but, it was quite clear that. It's. A home built to building code construction standards, not recreational vehicle standards. That was the distinction, so that applies to us.
Now, what about a mobile home? Like not a, like. Trailer,
Yeah, that to me. So. The way I see it is, I'll use local terms.
right,
So you can buy a manufactured home that comes in on two steel
yep,
frame, there's like two steel member frame pieces that then has wood framing, wood walls, shingle roof, metal roof, whatever. And those come in on like two trailers that pick them up with a crane and they set them on piers, a concrete
Concrete.
foundation that can have a basement, it could be a crawl space. They set them on a foundation structure that's built before they die.
Modular, basically.
Then the other option would be like highway campers, you can buy a mobile home. Now that is recreational vehicle construction standards.
Yeah.
That is not a manufactured. That is not a manufactured home, that is a recreational vehicle type home.
So you mean like a large trailer like you would have in a trailer park that's built to recreational?
That's recreational
It's
vehicle
not built
standard,
to like a regular building code stuff.
right?
So you wouldn't have to change the definition of those.
So this new policy includes that new definition, so. Maybe we copy that into our regulation. Or maybe we don't have to, I don't know. It probably would be helpful if we updated our definition to match that. Like word for word, I summarized the clause.
That makes sense.
That might help us on some conflicts that we've had in the last couple of years. And conflicts in law and the town law. Maybe this would help that situation, I'm not sure. That's it, that got us off track of the housing plan portion, but I just want to mention something about action. And moving to the last portion is the minimum parking requirements, which doesn't really apply to us, that's for.
because you currently don't have any minimum parking requirements in your regulations.
No, it's not
Right.
necessary, I mean, we have a lot minimum, so. And we don't have multi-story, so. Typically you have one, or two housing units on a property, whether it's a single family, double family, or a single family with an ADU and putting for parking 3 cars, that should be no problem with a 4-acre lot, so.
So we gotta opt in by next June.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Jim's gonna have a ton of work to do, like his department will have a ton of work to do on this whole thing, so. We'll just add this to the agenda as needed when, there needs to be discussion or decision, so.
So the only
That's not
thing
fair.
to understand it better.
Right, and I think one of the things is possibly to reach out, because to reach out maybe to the town attorney in regards to those specific things. Like that one, section 16 is if indeed that does apply. There may be some things that you may want to add to site plan approval.
Yeah.
That even though the commission. One, you may also want to change your regs to where maybe the commission approves site plans for those types of applications.
Multifamily.
Right.
Yeah.
all the other residential stuff can just go to the zoning enforcement officer.
These neighborhoods with a lot of multifamilies in there, so you probably have to zone.
We're not saying that, we wouldn't, well, I mean,
It wouldn't be
Correct me
to
if
every
I'm wrong.
multifamily, maybe a multifamily that, maybe this particular, because they define it.
right. It might be something that it's better to have some legislation in place than to not have it and then somebody wants to do it and what's their avenue.
Like, I wouldn't want it across the street from me, you know, like,
Well, nobody wants the trash burning plant in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it's gotta go somewhere, so.
But you also have to remember that if it comes in, if it's determined that it does apply, and it does come in, it can only be reviewed through what they define as summary review anyway. So it wouldn't be subject to a public hearing.
Yeah,
And that's why I think, a lot of the recommendations I'm seeing is that it is to strengthen the site plan requirements in regards to multifamily, where you may want to address more of the stormwater requirements
yeah.
or the impervious coverage requirements or things like that. Because it would be a little bit different than your run-of-the-mill residential development, single-family development, or even two-family development.
Right, that's just, maybe everybody is already aware of this, but multi-family housing is much different than a one or two family residential lot. You're talking about more pavement, less impervious area, less place for the water to infiltrate back into the ground, increased septic demand combined with less space for stormwater to infiltrate, so that's where Jim's saying, like, you might wanna have something written that would help deal with that,
So if you
or address that.
built like a 8-unit apartment building, how typical would it be to put a septic system around it?
Depends on the lot.
Doable sometimes?
need 16 acres in Durham to build that.
No, I mean, just to handle the sewage, like, in the way it would be done properly.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the soil conditions on the property, but I've seen septic systems for much bigger projects than that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Town of Eastford, gentleman just got approved through the health department for 8-unit, 4-story. And I think it's on maybe 6 acres,
It has a septic system or something?
septic system.
so it can be done, it's just, what are the demands on the land? So, you know,
Where it is.
Right.
You wanna have, does town, does this board wanna have some specific requirements to address when an application comes in? Cause it would be restricted to that site plan review, so what would you wanna have in your site plan review that may make this project a go or no go for our town?
At least to make them meet a certain requirement. And it may be something that, if it's determined that these all do apply, it may be something that, you may reach out to the town engineering or somebody to say, hey, what kind of things is it that we
Let's
should be
develop
looking
some
for?
numbers, yeah, is 35% lot coverage a fair and reasonable number? Is it 45? Is it 75? Who knows? I mean, yeah. We can compare to other towns who have similar projects and see what their restrictions are, you know, talk to engineering, those are all ways to determine what would be proper things to include.
And also bearing in mind that because the town is one big district, it could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's what worries me.
Except the industrial.
No
Except the
resident- no
industrial
residential
park.
in the industrial park.
That's right. Except the industrial park.
Which has sewer water.
How many months did we talk about that? And that what came out of it?
Although the,
Months and months and months of work and came back to just no residential and industrial park. No campgrounds, no residential. Yeah. So when we talk about adding zones, be prepared for a ton of work because we couldn't even get the industrial park broken into a separate zone without redoing the entire rest of the town because there was no differentiator for the industrial park other than residential and campground, so. Yeah,
And I
I
think
don't
there,
think the only zoning for that kind of thing would be on 14, right?
Or,
For the eight apartment complex type deals. Is that a big?
no, I think
Not
not
if you can, not if you can put it
anywhere in town, if you can get an NDDH approval for a septic system and you meet our site plan requirements, you can put it anywhere you want.
There's only septic.
Sewer.
Sewer on 14 Church Street, Main Street.
So, is it all by the post office?
Yeah,
Post
by-
office?
Up to the school.
So to your point, from a developer standpoint,
Church Street.
They have water.
They can come in and put it anywhere.
Water goes up Church Street, water and sewer, Church Street,
It's where all the old mill houses were.
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
They fed all,
and then only
it's the same thing you're trying to do all over again.
no water on 14 past Bucking Pond, just some sewer. And the industrial park, Main Street, the village area, and then the Sterling Hills Estate.
So to that point, that
Oh, so that-
developer,
That, where it goes up the hill across American Legion, they have
Yes, it's
sewage and water, they have water? Oh, wow.
so to that point, it may be beneficial from a developer's perspective to say, well, I can put this anywhere in town, but I only wanna target this area because I want it to be on sewer, I don't wanna have to deal with a $200,000 septic system. That may be cost prohibitive for my project, so I'm only looking at these areas, and that is a thing, but that would be on their decision making
Yeah.
and not ours. Or not anyone from the town, not a citizen, not anyone else, so.
So no citizens would have any say in it.
Well, just site plan review, that's what we have site plan review, so like Jim was saying, if we wanna add something to site plan review. To help drive this in one way or another, or try to drive it towards one area of town that maybe has those public utilities, well then. Maybe that's something we should look at adding. So that's that. More discussion to come. As this develops. Yeah, this is like an overall synopsis of what this is, and now it'll be implementing this over the next 2 years.
and there are, currently. There's more legislation being debated now that has to do with housing, of course.
Of course there is, yeah.
Whether or
This
not,
wasn't a one and done.
whether or not the legislature has an appetite to approve any of it until they see some results from what's actually already been passed. I don't know. I've heard mixed kind of things.
Yeah,
I've heard nothing's gonna go until, but who knows?
Our area being so far away from everything.
no, this seems to me like my understanding is that the state is trying to get. They're trying to get housing everywhere,
Yeah,
like they really wanna open up rural areas
Urban sprawl.
to become, yeah, more densely populated.
I don't know if it's so much opening up rural areas. I think one of the things that you're seeing, especially along the 395 corridor, is that electric boat is driving a lot of development because, I mean, you're not gonna add that amount of employees without adding some level of housing. And the cost of housing in this New London county is increasing greatly. And what is happening is they're looking a little bit north, Plainfield, Sterling, Killingly.
They can't afford the house, they're gonna pay from electric boat, they first start off with, they can't afford to house themselves in that area.
Right, and they're seeing the opportunity for lower cost land and everything else, so it's just gonna start creeping its way north. And it's especially gonna be those areas probably closer to 395 first and work its way out.
exactly what Fairfield County, Connecticut is.
Mhm.
It's the people coming out of the city, who are working in the city who say, I can get a $2 million one-bedroom apartment in the city, or I can buy
$2 million.
I can buy a $2 million house in Fairfield. You know, or you can take that $2 million in Fairfield and you can buy 150 acres with a 10,000 square foot house on it. In our region of the state, so
Yeah.
that's exactly what Fairfield County has become. It's the overflow of New York City for a lot cheaper, I mean, for us to go to Fairfield, it would be cost prohibitive, I mean, east.
Electric boat, they can't afford these houses coming on.
Well, that's electric boat is the New York City, right, so
Well, that's where you
the
get.
population fanning out from that.
Get the apartments, because people can't.
Whatever it is, get them to the next level of pay,
Rent.
so they can afford the housing.
Is that good for starters?
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, they can. All right, audience comments. We have no audience left. We've burned them out apparently.
Think about our education,
Yes,
how do we get hooked up, the program?
I will go on.
I just got something emailed to me not like a day or two ago. I can forward out to you guys.
That'd be great.
Do we have to have some certain number of hours done this year?
It depends on, we're all different. We're all different, so I know John Angelone and myself are in the same boat, because we did the last training together. We carpooled and did a 1 day, all 4 hour.
That was
all in
last
one.
year?
It was 2 years ago, so we have to have our 4 hours every 2 years.
You have to do 4 hours every 2 years.
Right, I think you did time last year. So this year you may not have to, and then you'll be back on next year.
I thought there was a requirement for.
4 hours every
Like
2
a,
years.
some housing,
Yes, of your 4 hours, one has to have a low income,
Affordable housing.
affordable housing credit. So you need 4 credits, 1 credit per hour.
Still have to do that.
So what do we need? After 4 hours, we have to do so many.
Of your 4, 1 has to be affordable
One
housing.
is affordable housing. And it could just be an online thing, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And
The
who's keeping track of this stuff?
I have no idea.
A principal,
The principal.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know who's keeping track of it right now.
Actually, I don't know.
Maybe I should keep track of it, I don't know.
That's fine.
You're wondering
Where
who
do you
keeps track of
find
it now.
When you need them. Is there-
Oh, well, you're gonna need it, this is your first year, so you're gonna need it, this year, basically.
Where do you find these classes?
Yeah, so,
Jim's
the Yukon Clear website has a number of classes throughout the year. Both in person and online. And they will send you a certificate after you complete their course, so this one. This course, says eligible for 2 hours of commissioner training, but I don't know where the certificate comes from. They didn't mention anything about sending out
There is,
certificates to anybody, so I might have to track that down, but.
Yeah, I can forward this one out. I just got one from, well, I think this one's an in-person one. Nobody wants to go to Old Saybrook, do
That's where we went last time.
they? Is it?
Yeah.
Had
I
'em.
think John
That like on a Saturday.
and Ross.
The buffers were good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
John-
Saturday, April 18th.
Somebody else go, were there 4 of us, or were there 3 of us? I don't know, we carpooled down there,
It's in person or via Zoom. That's the basic training new one. The
Yeah,
initial
so that
one.
would be good for you, the basic training one, that's what you wanna look for.
How many hours is that? Is that like half a day or something?
Yep, 9 to 12:30.
Up to 12:30.
And then I know I can get you the information. I know one of our staff people is holding one in a couple of weeks in March. There's a virtual one with it's a second part of a 2-part one with Don Poland and I think a couple other people, and it's on affordable housing specifically.
And that's only half the requirement, that's only 2 hours, combination.
Yeah, that one's only like a 2 hour one. I can forward that one out to you
Yeah,
guys.
if you could forward it to me or Ashley.
Ashley, and have her send it out.
Then one of us can send it to everybody.
Yep,
And you said the Saturday one's in Old Saybrook?
yes, that one's on April 18th. In Old Saybrook.
Actually, it wasn't Old Saybrook, was it?
No.
Is that
No,
one?
Well, actually, it says Old Saybrook Road, it's Haddon, Connecticut.
Yeah, that's where it is. It's at the Yukon,
Yep,
it's at that Yukon
the
facility.
Yukon Middlesex County Extension Center,
That's the one, yeah.
April what?
April 18th.
That was actually kind of good, that one went, that wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't right at all. Very informative.
You're gonna send that over. That one of those ones, you're gonna send that over.
So if we went to
Yeah,
the Saturday
send it
one
to
and
me
the
or
affordable
Ashley.
housing one would be good to go for like
Yeah, you'd
2
be
years?
set.
Good for 2 years?
But yeah, you just start with the basic thing you want, cause that gives you a real good, like baseline education and then from there. Yeah, I have your email somewhere, I'll look that up.
I was hoping.
When I get out of here, next time I'm gonna pull the fire on them.
I thought this one was gonna go quick, but we're gonna talking about this
It was gonna go quick, at least said it.
Yeah, next time I'll show it.
Jinxed it.
Well, we spent a lot of time on this HPU public.
Yeah, no. Oh, did I can eat up like food?
Not by my house, at
We have,
5:45 now.
oh, wait, you know, I'm really just coming on 2 wheels.
Shrimp and soda.
Oh my God, you know, just take a little time off early.
Not by my house.
Bring the Italian bread. And a bottle of wine.
It's shrimp and risotto and green beans.
That's one of my faves.
Yeah. All right, number 11, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second the move.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Yeah, were you just